the life story of Scarlett Johansson. In a world where millions dream of fame, and only a few ever touch it, there are even fewer who rise above it, before the spotlight, before the red carpets, before becoming a global icon. There was a young girl, growing up in the restless streets of New York City. Her name is Scarlett Johansson, a city filled with noise, endless movement, and millions of untold stories, where every face carries ambition, and every corner hides a dream. But among all that chaos, she was different, not louder, not more visible, but deeper. From a very young age, she didn't just watch films. She felt them. Every emotion, every silence, every unspoken moment stayed with her. While others saw entertainment, she saw meaning, connection, truth, and without realizing it, she was already becoming something rare. Because sometimes, greatness doesn't begin with attention. It begins with understanding. Her childhood wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. Her parents separated early, and life introduced her to emotions most children don't understand so soon. But instead of breaking her, those moments shaped her. They gave her depth. They gave her perspective. They gave her something that cannot be taught. And slowly, that depth began to turn into something powerful. Something the world would one day notice. A beginning in the city that never sleeps. Every great story begins somewhere. Some begin in silence. Some begin in struggle. And some begin in a city where dreams are everywhere. But success belongs to only a few. This story begins in New York City. Fast, loud, unforgiving. A place where millions walk with dreams in their eyes. But only a handful make it to the top. And among those millions, there was a little girl. Quiet, observant, different. Her name is Scarlett Johansson. She was born on November 22nd, 1984, into a family that wasn't rich in wealth, but rich in creativity. Her father was an architect. Her mother had a deep love for film and storytelling. From an early age, Scarlett was surrounded by art, by stories, by emotion. But life wasn't simple. Her parents eventually separated. And like many children in that situation, she had to grow up faster than others. She learned to understand emotions early, to feel deeply, to observe people, to notice things others might ignore. And without realizing it, she was already preparing for something bigger. The first spark, when acting became everything. Some dreams come slowly, others arrive like a spark. For Scarlett Johansson, it was a spark, a moment, a realization. She didn't just enjoy watching movies, she felt them. She connected with characters. She understood their emotions, their struggles, their silence. And one day, she made a decision. She wanted to be part of that world, not as a viewer, but as a storyteller. She began attending auditions, and like every beginner, she faced rejection, again and again. But here's what made her different. She didn't stop, because for her, acting wasn't just a dream, it was a calling. The hard reality, rejection, pressure, and persistence. The journey to success is rarely smooth, especially in Hollywood. For every yes, there are hundreds of no. And Scarlett heard many of them. She auditioned constantly, prepared endlessly, waited patiently. But success didn't come overnight. There were moments of doubt, moments of frustration, moments where quitting would have been easier. But she didn't quit, because deep down, she knew something others didn't. She belonged here. While other children lived normal lives, she was building something, a foundation, a skill, presence. And slowly, that work began to show. The first break, a glimpse of greatness. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. A role in The Horse Whisperer. This wasn't just another role. This was her moment, and she delivered. Her performance wasn't loud. It wasn't exaggerated. It was real, honest, emotional, and people noticed. Critics noticed. Directors noticed. For the first time, the world began to see her not as a child actress, but as a serious talent. The turning point, becoming a star. Then came the role that would define her early career. Lost in Translation. Scarlett Johansson gave a performance that felt different. Quiet, subtle, deep. She didn't need dramatic scenes. She didn't need loud expressions. Her presence alone told the story, and that's what made it powerful. That role changed everything. It brought recognition. respect, global attention, and suddenly, she was no longer just a promising actress. She was a rising star. But this was only the beginning, because the next phase of her journey would take her beyond drama, beyond expectations, and into a level of fame few ever reach. Reinvention, refusing to be defined. After the quiet brilliance of Lost in Translation, most actors would choose the safe path, stay in the same genre, repeat the same type of roles, build a predictable career. But Scarlett Johansson didn't want predictability. She wanted evolution, because deep down, she understood something many actors don't, that staying the same is the fastest way to disappear. So she made a decision, a bold one, to constantly change, to take risks, to explore roles that challenged her identity as an actress. She worked with visionary directors, stepped into complex narratives, and chose characters that were layered, imperfect, human. In films like Match Point and The Prestige, she showed the world a different side of her talent. Not just emotional depth, but psychological intensity. She wasn't trying to be liked, she was trying to be real. Entering a new dimension, the birth of Black Widow. Then came the moment that would change everything. Not just for her career, but for global cinema itself. In 2010, Scarlett Johansson stepped into a role that would redefine her identity. Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, her first appearance in Iron Man 2, was more than just an introduction. It was a statement. She wasn't just another character. She was presence, power, precision, and through that role, she entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a universe that would go on to dominate global cinema. But what made Black Widow different was not just her strength. It was her silence, her past, her pain. She wasn't a superhero with powers. She was human, broken, rebuilt, and that made her relatable. Global stardom, becoming a cultural icon. As the Marvel films grew, so did her influence. With films like The Avengers, Avengers Endgame, Scarlett Johansson became part of something historic. These weren't just movies. They were global events, moments that brought millions together. And at the center of it all was her. She wasn't just acting. She was shaping a generation's idea of strength, of femininity, of resilience. But what made her journey even more powerful was that she never allowed herself to be defined by just one role. Beyond the spotlight, strength, voice, and control. Fame is powerful, but it comes with pressure, expectations, judgment, and for someone at the top, every decision is watched, every move is analyzed. Scarlett Johansson faced these challenges, not just as an actress, but as a woman in Hollywood. There were moments where she had to fight for fairness, for recognition, for creative control, and she did, not quietly, but confidently. She used her voice, made bold choices, and showed that success is not just about talent, it's about knowing your worth. Legacy, a story still being written. Today, Scarlett Johansson stands as one of the most influential actresses in modern cinema. But her story is not just about success. It's about transformation. From a young girl in New York, watching films with curiosity, to a global icon, defining her own path. She didn't follow expectations. She challenged them. She didn't stay in one identity. She evolved. And through that journey, she created something powerful, a legacy built not just on roles, but on courage. Because in the end, her story teaches us something important, that success is not about becoming what the world expects, but becoming who you truly are.